Cornish rock, but it's close enough. I didn't make the presentation. Partridge rock, yes, not a Cornish rock.
Get it right,
Partridge
Annie.
rock, yeah. But it's not a Rhode Island red. There's sadly, when people see red chickens, they automatically say the Rhode Island Reds, and that's what this woman that made this presentation did. But the Rhode Island Red it's probably number 2 as far as America's favorite backyard chicken. There's number 1. Anybody have these? Anybody know why they're so popular? Because these are like the golden retriever of the chicken world. They're really, really easy to tame down. They're calm. The Rhode Island Red would outperform them. They'll do about 250 eggs a year. She's about 180 to 200. Orpingtons come in many colors, but buff is by far the most common. Really a great choice. They're not real predator safe. Anybody free ranging their chickens? All right, so you don't want to have just Orpingtons. You need to have her with other breeds because Betty the Orpington will walk right up to a coyote. They are just so trusting. They're not stupid. They're just very trusting. But if she's with other breeds of chickens, they'll tell her, Betty, don't do that, okay? Because it's not going to end well for her.
Why are the Jubilees so expensive?
It's not a new breed. Anybody know? I'll tell you what, for a prize, anybody know why they're called Jubilee Orpingtons?
What?
It was for Queen Victoria's Jubilee anniversary. And that was where they were developed. There's just not a lot of them, is why. The buff is by far the most common. That's why they're the least expensive. By the way, the buff will outlay the other ones too. When they develop new colors, they have a tendency to concentrate on color as opposed to production. So it takes them a few years to get the production down pat too. So anybody have these?
So you're speaking of the lavender and the chocolate Orpingtons will have less production?
Yes, those are not going to produce as well as a buff.
Okay.
But about 10 years from now, I won't be saying that. Okay? So, anybody have these? Pretty good chickens?
Yeah.
This is another one of my quarter vanilla
I
ice
have a
cream
mean
chickens.
rooster that's a $5.
People ask me all the time, what breed of rooster is not mean? That's a loaded question because I've seen mean in pretty much every breed and nice in just about every breed. So just so you know, I do prescribe to the theory that it is genetic. So if he's a mean rooster and attacks people, he'll probably pass it on to his sons. So you may not want to let him reproduce.
Yeah.
At our house, the mean rooster only attacks her once, and then they go to what we call Camp Kenmore. So,
No, but he's such a good rooster too.
well, I mean, good in attack. I mean, does he protect the girls? Is that, okay.
Very much so.
Yeah, but he shouldn't be going after you.
Oh, he does every day.
Okay.
So have you ever
Good
picked
rooster
him
now.
up and carried him around?
Not since he was little.
I would start doing that.
I wouldn't be able to get near him, I don't think.
Okay, well, maybe I'll come visit you.
We had roosters, and we had a rooster that went running after the little pigs.
Yeah.
And I tell you, their mom was there. And their mom followed that rooster to Timbuktu to go after that rooster. And she really got after it. And then I have taken a broom. When the roosters come, I take a broom and I go, shoot, 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 shoot. When they see me now, they go the other way.
No, he comes right at me.
Yeah, I scoop him up and I carry him around, and maybe you don't want to hear this, but I'll tip him upside down if I think they're not
Yeah,
misbehaving.
carry him by the feet.
But
yeah.
then I also have hens that now have been raising these roosters up, and so all of the ones that live with me now, and I probably have 4 or 5 because I have about 60 chickens, and they are very abiding, so I think the hens have told them how it's going to be.
One of the tricks that I've learned over the years is if you have adult hens and then you bring in a juvenile rooster and let the girls raise him, they kind of teach them manners.
Yes, they have.
And they're less likely because the alpha hen will flat tune him up if he starts giving her grief. So, not foolproof, but it does seem to
Yeah,
help.
it's worked really well
Yeah.
at my house.
So these are another great beginner's birds. All 3 of these are not what we call broody chickens. You'll hear that term, you'll see it in hatchery catalogs. Broody means they want to hatch the eggs. For most of you, that's not a good trait because if you don't have a rooster, they're going to still sit on the eggs. They don't care. And they will sit on them kind of indefinitely for several months. She's ruined a bunch of eggs. She's not producing eggs while she's doing this. And then once she decides to finally get off or you break that brood, it'll take you 6-8 weeks to get her back in condition to lay eggs again. So not generally a good trait for most of you. So Australorps, this is another good beginner's chicken. She can be a little broody. Occasionally you'll see an Orpington brood too. Any of them will brood, but as a whole, these are not real broody chickens. About 200 eggs a year, big brown eggs. From Australia, they're very cold hardy, strangely, but they do well up here. So now, has anybody heard this? I've heard this since I was a kid. If you have your birds free ranging and you have hawk issues, if you have some black chickens in the flock, the hawks, and they think it's a crow and they don't get along, I've heard mixed reviews on that, but I have heard that. I think there is something to it. Now you said you've had trouble with your black chickens.
Yeah, but I got trouble with eagles and hawks too.
Okay, yeah, so.
I'm thinking about getting one of those things that you'll see at car dealers where the
Oh, the-
blows
yeah.
up and it rattles
Yeah.
around.
What happened there?
What we found worked the best, and it's not a quick fix, is we planted raspberries, and it takes a few years, but once they take off, you end up with like a bramble. And the chickens, you'll usually either have the rooster or an alpha hen they're always kind of watching the sky, and if they see danger, they make a call, and then all our girls will run under the bramble, and the hawks can't get to them. So plus you get raspberries, so, or some kind of berry.
Yeah. They don't eat them?
Oh yes, anything that's at chicken lip level, they'll eat.
That's what I was wondering. I'm like,
Well, that's all right.
But you know, we still get a ton of berries, and they fertilize while they're in there. So, in fact, the first berry, it's always a race who's going to get it. And one year I was out there, and I come around the corner, and there's my naked neck hen. And she's standing there, and I'm standing here, and the first raspberry of the year is between us. And we're both staring at each other, and I started to move, and man, she had that thing in tuck. I know she was laughing at me when she took off at that thing. So, Wyandottes, anybody have Wyandottes? Good birds. This is a silver, by far the most common. I really like the gold Wyandottes. They're really, really striking. They come in a lot of different colors now, but this is the most common. About 200 eggs a year. Big brown eggs, all the right traits. She's not broody, she's friendly. Everybody so far is friendly and not broody and reasonably intelligent. The good Lord didn't make any bad chickens, but he made some stupid ones. We'll get there. We're going to get to them. All right, Easter eggers. Anybody have these? Not bad chickens. A little bit smaller bird. Now, a lot of confusion on these. I won't dig too deep. I don't want to confuse you.
Easter egger.
You have Ericanas, Americanas, and Easter eggers. The hatcheries, even in their catalogs, interchange those. They're not the same. They're 3 different chickens. Ericanas from South America, if you don't go to chicken shows, you've probably never seen one. Does anybody show chickens in here? No? Okay. Ericana is a small bird. They call them rumpless. There's no tail. They lay a small egg. They don't lay a lot of them. They're kind of flighty. Not a real friendly bird. So to improve upon them, they crossed, I believe it was the White Rock, and created the Americana. Now the Americana only lays blue eggs, and they breed true, meaning you can breed 2 Americanas together, you get another Americana out. Ericanas breed true, same way. Easter eggers are what the hatcheries have created. Each hatchery has their own genetics. They may have a picture of an Americana, and they do look slightly different, and they'll call it an Easter egger. Or they may call it an Americana and have a picture of an Easter egger. So they kind of interchange things. Does it really matter? Unless you show birds, no. But I'm just telling you, if you buy from a hatchery or a farm store, you have Easter eggers. More than likely, they're going to lay a green egg. So they tend to be a little bit seasonal in their laying. I have found in the winter time, unless it's a first-year pullet, and even then, sometimes your first-year pullets won't lay through the winter, even if you put lights on. So, but not a bad bird, not a bad beginner's chicken. You always know when these girls are slacking off because you're not getting green eggs. Anybody have gold comets? No, this is, if you were to go to a commercial brown egg layer operation, a lot of times they have gold comets. About 300 eggs a year. They're what we call a sex link. They're a hybrid. This is a good beginner's chicken because they're a hybrid. They tend to be very intelligent, very friendly, and a good immune system. The downside to them is they are a production bird. So you're going to get most of your eggs in the first couple of years. So I don't know if you know this, but chickens have a finite number of eggs. When Betty's hatched, she has X number of eggs in her. It's just how long will it take you to get them out of her. And many times, she'll lay all of her eggs and then she goes through what we call henopause. It's not a real thing. And she may go another 4, 5, 6 years and never lay another egg. Your sex lynx or your production birds have a tendency to lay most of their eggs up front. Because commercially, they keep them for about 18 months, maybe less than that, and then they rotate them out. Put new ones in. But not a bad beginner's bird. All right. The silky. Ooh, everybody loves silkies. Not a big fan of them as a beginner's chicken. I am not a silky hater. I've been bashed as been called a silky basher, a silky hater. I'm not. For many years, do you remember Spike?
I do.
Spike was my seminar rooster that would travel with me. He was a rescue silky. He loved everybody in the entire world except for her, and the feeling was mutual. They hated each other. Midwest Horse Fair, Spike would be there amongst hundreds of people, just sucking it up. Everybody's taking pictures like he's a celebrity and petting him. He would see her come through the crowd, and he would start making the danger noise. He hated her. I don't know why, but anyway. Very neat little birds. They're very unique. They've been around a long, long time. Anybody tell me what famous explorer wrote about them? Kind of puts a date on them. Nobody?
Was it Lewis and Clark? When they went on the Silk Road?
Further back.
Oh, further back. All right. I don't know.
Marco Polo
Well,
wrote
that's
about
what I
them
was thinking of.
in
Marco
the
Polo, not Lewis and
1200s.
Clark.
All those other breeds of
got the
chickens.
Silk Road,
Right, because Lewis and Clark did the expedition.
Yep.
Yep, not the Silk Road.
Everybody else that we've talked about so far is Victorian era forward. Okay? At least the 1200s. Okay, they've been around a long time. They're very different than other chickens. Obviously, the different feathers. They have 5 toes. They have a vaulted skull. Black skin, black organs, black meat. They're a very, very unique bird. That does not make them a good beginner's chicken. And the main reason they're not a good beginner's chicken is they're extremely broody. They want to hatch everything they lay. Now, if you want to have a mother hen, great. And they'll hatch anybody's eggs. But for a beginner's chicken, maybe not such a great choice. So, and you say you have one coming?
No, I don't have any of those.
They also try to hatch rocks.
Yeah, they'll sit on rocks.
And they're very, very difficult to break in a room.
Yeah, they really want to reproduce. That's their thing.
Do they get mean at all when they constantly want to sit on a nest? and
The
someone
hens
goes
aren't too
down?
bad, but I've seen plenty of mean silky roosters. When you inbreed chickens, a lot of things happen and none of them are good. One of the things to go is the disposition. The brains and the immune system can go too, but the disposition. Sadly, these little guys have been inbred a little bit over the centuries because they've been around so long. So, and when people, when you make fun of silkies like being a poofy, chicken, it's like, hey, if Genghis Khan had chickens, that's probably what he had because it was the same time frame, same area. That's more than likely what he had. Anybody have these? Are yours crazy?
I don't know yet. They're little.
You're going to want to handle them a lot, starting like when you go home. They're not a bad chicken, but they're much harder to tame down.
Okay.
So, this is one of the breeds that will get people out of the hobby too, because every day you go out to the coop, it's like first contact, never seen a human before.
Yep.
And you've had the chicken for, 2 years. Do you have Leghorns? Are you familiar
I
with them?
don't,
No.
but I know a lot about them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow! And it's like, yeah.
Not a
I have-
stupid bird.
I have 3 brown leghorns, and literally one of them's name is Tood, because sometimes she has a Tood that she wants to be held, and some days she doesn't want to be
Okay,
close
so
to each other.
not a dumb bird. They are probably the best layer, and this gets people in trouble. I like to joke about it. Every day in America, couples sit down to breakfast, and the wife announces, I want to get chickens, and the husband says, but I don't want to get chickens. And then they compromise, and they get chickens. So if he's going to build the coop and take care of them, I'm going to get the best laying, most efficient birds there are. That's her. They don't eat as much. They're a small bird, and they lay out, I mean, a bunch of big white eggs. Again, production bird, so most of your eggs are on the front end of her life cycle, you know, the first couple of years, and then they drop drastically. The main reason this is not a good beginner's chicken is because of the attitude or the flightiness. They do make good ranch chickens. So some people that have horses and stuff, they want chickens out there to eat the ticks. That's the primary reason. They're very good at that. These guys can fly almost like a pheasant. All right, I mean, they can fly really well. And the brown leghorn's a better choice because they're more camouflaged. They don't lay quite as well as the whites, but they're more camouflaged.
Really well.
Do you know what famous American author, for a prize, what famous American author was a huge brown leghorn? No?
No.
You ever heard of Laura Ingalls Wilder? Yeah. Before she wrote The Little House on the Prairie stuff, her first job writing was about brown leghorns. So, this is your standard 1A meat chicken. Has anybody ever done these? Are they not dumber than a bag of hammers? Yes. Remember when I said the good Lord didn't make any bad chickens, but he made dumb ones? At the top of the list, circled, underlined twice, the Cornish cross. I don't want to dig too deep. I didn't ask you, sir, did you want me to cover meat birds, or are you familiar with them?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, well, I don't want to confuse my beginner
Either
people.
way, it doesn't
Okay,
matter.
okay, all right. You feed these, the husbandry is totally different with these. That's why for you new people with layers now, my public service announcement, the craziness right now with the baby chicks is going to settle down. Don't get desperate, because I've been to many farm stores and the only thing they have left are these. These are not a substitute for pets or layers. You can have pets and layer hens, not with these. It's not that they don't tame down. It's they're only around about 8 weeks. Their life cycle is very, very fast. Even if you try to keep them longer, they might last 6 months, maybe. They never live long enough to lay eggs. They're a crossbreed. That's where they come from, okay? The Cornish cross itself, they're not around very long. They don't have a great disposition. They're very delicate. Once you learn how to do them, they're not too bad. But they are dumb, and they don't make good pets. They just don't. Okay, you've heard sex links. Has anybody heard these before? I mentioned it with the gold comets. Why they call them that is because at the hatchery, when they hatch, because they're a hybrid, they can tell by the color if they're male or female. At a glance, it's pretty easy. So the odds of you getting a baby rooster go down a little bit when you get sex links. The way they sex everything else is either vent sexing or feather sexing. Vent sexing, they're highly trained. I don't know how they do it. Remember the show Dirty Jobs? He did an episode where he went to Murray McMurray Hatchery, and that was right on the money. These people sit next to the incubators, they flip the chicks on their back, they give them a little squeeze, and a little jet of poop comes out of the vent. That's the opening that the eggs and the droppings come out of. And then they look at the shape of that vent. There's 32 different combinations. I have no idea how they can tell, because they're going like this fast. I mean, okay. They go to school for 6 months and do a 2-year apprenticeship, and they run about 95% accurate. The Japanese invented it. They don't share that info. I've run across a few of these vent sexers over my many years in the poultry industry, and I ask a lot of questions because that's just me. And after about 5 minutes, we develop a language barrier because they're not going to share that info with me. So 95% accurate is good, but 5 out of 100 of you people won't be happy. So don't blame the store if you buy sexed pullets. It's not their fault. Okay, it just happens. Sex links, you're probably down to less than 1%. So they don't miss too often with those. The downside, again, is the production's all on the front end of her life cycle. You also end up with a lot of eggs with sex links, typically, about 300 a year. Real smart chicken. They usually will be one of your alpha hens. All right, so now let's start about, this is probably what you want to hear about since you're new, what you're going to need. So, I know that sounds kind of redundant and dumb, starting with healthy chicks. What we're talking about, just like when you buy tropical fish, you want to pick out nice, lively ones. The one that's sitting in the corner by itself may not feel good. Don't take that one home. I mean, unless you have to. Sometimes it's just a matter of they had a rough ride. They come through the postal system. So I know they're real good.